Hey guys, this is the Betamax man here. This is a Sony HF300. Now it's got something wrong with it, and we'll show you here what's wrong with it. Power? No power. Yep, that's right. No power light. Only the tape speed comes on when you hit power. See? So let's get a voltage regulator in here and fix it. So what we'll do is get a we'll take this apart, we'll pull the power supply out. We're going to replace the voltage regulator. I'm going to leave it unplugged for about an hour, because I need to make sure that this thing is discharged. I don't want to work on a power supply if it's been powered up, so I unplug it for around an hour, and then I can work on it. This is the one, STK5441. This is a Sanyo made voltage regulator. I have two of these, so we're going to put this one in. I like to have two of these on hand. And the reason why I like to keep two in stock is because I do run across beta machines with this issue. I put one of these in 3 or 4 different beta machines. This is a very common problem. Sometimes there's like a power surge and it blows out the regulator. So basically what's happening is it's only getting power to certain areas on the machine. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead now and pull the power supply out, and we'll solder the new one in, and then we'll put it back together and we'll plug it in, and we'll see if it has any issues. Okay, I'm gonna find we've got the power supply out, so I got the screws out of the regulator. What I'm gonna do, take these 2 screws out as well. I'm gonna find the tip that I want to use. I think this is gonna be the tip I want to use. I gotta get a tip that's you know, small, you know, on the small side, but yet not too big, you know, not too big, not too small. I think this one will work. So let's use this tip here. And we'll heat my iron up. And we're going to change these tips here. And we'll put this one on. Yeah, when you're working with, I don't know if I'll like this tip or not, but we'll find out. Because this one, the one that I had that was real small, these tips I bought, and they're cheap tips, and the solder, it gets to where the solder won't stick to it, because the tip has, you know, if the heat is applied to the tip for a certain length of time, and the tip just basically is garbage and you can't use it. I've tried to clean it with a wet sponge, doesn't do a thing. So what I'm going to do is purchase some tips that I bought before. So I got to look in my history of eBay buying history and see because I bought some tips from a guy and they lasted a long time and they were good tips. So what I'm going to do here is we'll take the screws off of this plate and that'll allow me to get access. Sometimes I like to cut the old chip off and then I can get the anyway, I don't know what I was saying, but anyway, I want to get to the, there we go. I just want to get to the IC and alright, I gotta find my tools. Where did my solder sucker go? Okay, I have to find my tool. Where did it go there? Okay, alright. And anyway, guys, let's get the IC unsoldered here. I just want to break the, I'm going to tap on the chip on the top, and that's going to break it free because it's got, yeah, it's got this, you know, heat sink compound. So there we go. Now I actually can get to the chip if I want. So what I'll do is probably just go out like this here. I'll just put that up there like that, and we'll see if our iron is hot. I'm just going to finish unsoldering this, and then we'll pull the chip out here. Okay, let's just see if the chip is free now. Should be. Alright. So, what I need to do is, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut the regulator, cut the old one off, and what I'm going to do is get the because I can basically get the pins out once I cut the okay, it's starting to pull out, so that's good. Sometimes you just gotta heat the pins and till they fall out. But when you get rid of the old regulator, I got that crap on my hands now, so let's get that off of there. And I'll pull the pins out one by one here. Get my little pliers, because we need to pull the. I'm gonna grab a hold of the pin, heat it up, and then pull it out, and that should allow me to. Now, some of them have been unsoldered, so there's one. So some of the traces are kind of damaged a little bit here, so yeah, kind of accidentally damaged a couple, so I'll probably have to do a bridge. So we got the old one out successfully. Now there's you can see there's two leads here and they're somewhat damaged, but there's half of a trace left, so pretty sure that I can just put my regulator in and it'll be fine. I may have to bridge some of the wires, but I think it'll be fine. So we'll go ahead and put the new one in now. So we have the brand new one, and here's the new one. So we'll put it, we'll go ahead now and we'll put this in. So I gotta kind of line the pins up, because now the pins are already kind of aligned, but there was a couple pins here in the end that got a little bit bent, so I'm gonna have to bend them a little bit back into shape. So we'll get this one in, and then we'll solder it in, and we'll power it up, and we'll see if that fixes it, or maybe it might have another issue. So let's find out. So I put the regulator in, I put the power supply in it. It's still not working. And I've tested some of the capacitors, and some of the capacitors are not working. So we'll replace some capacitors, but I seen something here that concerned me, and I didn't see it before. Look at this. This trace is completely gone. So there's a resistor here, and the one end is soldered. This end over here, it's gone, and the lead is not there. So I need to pull the power supply apart, because there's something wrong here. It shouldn't. So what I need to do is take the 4 screws out of the transformer and get in there, because something, I don't understand why this has happened. You know, if somebody has probably messed with this power supply and they didn't know what they were doing, and they've messed it up. There's a trace, it's completely gone. So I am wondering if somebody has tried to do something. I don't know. I'm not quite sure, but there's the diode. It might be the diode that's not connected. I don't know. So, or maybe not. I don't know. It's got a negative wire going. So we need to fix that issue too. So it's very depressing when you put something in and still doesn't work. You know, there's no power light, and that's usually the voltage regulator IC. There were some of the traces. Some traces were damaged, so what I might do is just bridge them and see if we can get this to fire up. So I'll just use some pins, and we'll bridge the broken traces, and we will see if we can get this thing to power on, because it's still, even putting the regulator in, it still won't power on. But there were a couple capacitors that aren't registering very good. So one of the issues that I might have had is maybe my iron was a little on the hot side, and maybe it maybe I burned up the chip. So I'm going to turn my temperature down on my iron, because that might have been what happened. If, you know, if I've damaged the actual chip because I've applied too much heat, that could be That could be too. So I'm gonna go work on this. I'm gonna bridge the connectors and put it back in and see if we can, see if it's got a power light. So this is frustrating because I know this is caused by the voltage regulator. So I gotta figure out what the heck's going on. I put several of these regulators in, so I've never had an issue until now. This one has given me a little bit of a fit, so I'm gonna bridge those and then we'll put it in. We'll see what happens. But gosh, it sure is depressing when you do something and you know it's correct, because I've done it several times and I've always had good results. Well, with this one, so we're gonna check the fuses too, because could be a blown fuse, but I'm not seeing any blown fuses. So I'm just gonna bridge the connector on the regulator and we'll see if that'll come on. I hope the regulators I purchased are good. I mean, I bought from that guy before, and the regulators were fine, but I don't know. Okay, I put capacitors in, and we now have a power light, but we have no clock. Clock display is dead, and I think I know why. I have a 63 volt here at 33 microfarad. I didn't have a 63. For right now, for testing, I threw in a 50 volt. Now with that lower voltage is probably why the clock display is not powering on. But we do have a power light now. And we do have our beta hi-fi. We still have no clock, but I think that's due to the low voltage. So, what I'm going to do here is let's just see if a tape will even... Let's just see if a tape goes in, because, yeah, let's just see what's going on here. Oops. Okay, well, it's doing more than it was. We still got some issues to work out. I think it's missing a voltage still, and that's going to be due to that. Some more capacitors. I think I'm going to have to end up ordering some capacitors for this, because it's not going to work, because you see the solenoid isn't getting power. But we do have power to the cassette housing now, and we have power going to the loading motor. So we're going to pull the power supply out, because I lost my clock display. I had a clock display before I replaced capacitors. So we've got, but because that voltage is so low, that voltage is just too low. It has to have the 63 volt, not the 50 that I put in. So basically I just done that just to see if I can get any kind of power. I've also bridged the connections on the voltage regulator IC, because there were a couple of damaged traces. So, but we're getting closer, so I'm gonna unplug this, let it sit for a while, and then I'm gonna change the capacitor. Now what I'm gonna do is I'll take what I'll probably do is take a 50 volt and a 16 volt capacitor, put them together. That will give me a little bit more than 63. It'll be what, 66 volts. So that'll give me 66 volts. So it'll be 3 volts high. And it's at 33 microfarad, so I got a 50 at 10 and a 16 at 22. So that'll give me, I think that'll work. So let's do that, and we'll put it back in and see if we can get it to do anything. But we're closer. We're getting there. We're not there. We're far from it, but we are getting there, and we are heading in the right direction. I was very, very depressed because I thought, oh man, what the heck's going on? I thought I'd done something wrong, but I didn't. It was just bad capacitors. Now, these are those really shitty Elna capacitors. There's some of the capacitors right there, and there's a light blue Sanyo capacitor that has failed. There's even a Rubicon that failed, which usually Rubicons don't fail, but so far we're making progress. You know, we're making headway. Yeah, we're just gonna keep working on it, and let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and put those caps in, and then we'll see if we can get our clock to come back, because we have no clock now. So we got a power light now, but now we have no clock. So alright, let's do it. Well, I've got my clock back. So believe it or not, one of my capacitors that were brand new wasn't working, because I replaced it and my clock is working. So there was one capacitor which was causing the clock issue. Now we do have a power light, and now we might have a working machine. So what I'm going to do, so let's put a tape in. Let me see what tape I can put in. Just something that I can put in that, let's see here. I have this one. Here's a tape. There we go. Here's one I could use. So let's see if we get the solenoid to engage, because the solenoid wasn't engaging. But that could be due to that one cap. Okay, we've got our power supply working, but our solenoid is not engaging. So we've got a stuck solenoid, is what I think. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but what I do want to do is go ahead and put the power supply back together. At least we have a power light now. We have the clock display. Our beta hi-fi light is lit up. So we know that we have power. But we've got a solenoid that's not working. So let's just see. Because I think we've got a solenoid that is completely stuck. Yeah, this solenoid isn't moving. So we've got a solenoid that is stuck. So I need to fix that. But I think for part one, this is gonna be it. So what we'll do is see, because when you put that in, so we got one issue fixed, but the second issue is why the solenoid is not engaging. Now what I'm going to do is check the capacitors. I'm going to check the rest of the capacitors on the power supply and make sure we have no more bad caps. But I think we have voltage. I think what's happening is this solenoid is not working. It's not engaging. So we might need to replace the... I think we're going to end up having to replace the solenoid switch. It may not even be this switch. This solenoid might be fine, but due to the fact that it won't move is why I'm thinking. But you know, who knows? Because somebody could have messed with it. Somebody could have had this thing off and mess with it and put it together, and now it's all screwed up. So we're gonna have to see what I can do. I'm gonna put some I'll pull this mechanism apart and do some cleaning, and I'll put it back together and see if we get any kind of results. We might have a solenoid down below that is also failed. It might be the you know, we've got, definitely we have solenoid issue. And you know, I was hoping that this thing was going to work. I thought, well, if I fix that power supply issue, it's probably going to fire up. Well, nope, it's not. But at least we got one situation figured out. So we'll figure this out. But this will be, I think, will be the end of part 2. But before we end, I mean, this is part 1. Before we end this video, before we end part 1, I want to get the power supply all put back together, and I'm going to check for more capacitors that may not be working. I don't know. But I think we've got voltage. But I really do believe this solenoid is completely stuck, because this solenoid is not moving whatsoever. So most likely I'm going to have to replace the solenoid. That solenoid needs to be replaced. The plunger is probably fine. I think the plunger is fine. I think it's the actual solenoid that has probably gotten hot and has burned out. So, because we do have power. Oh, never mind. Our solenoid is not sticking at all. So what we might have is we might have an issue with one of the solenoids underneath. Let's spray some cleaner into that solenoid and just see. This is going to move the solenoid up and down. Okay, I think this might be an issue with the solenoid underneath. One of the solenoids underneath is probably not working, so, but we got a little bit of a monkey wrench kind of thrown in here to try to so this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. I'm not quite sure if it's the solenoid underneath or if it's the solenoid over here. So yeah, let's we'll fix one thing at a time, and then so let's get this power supply back together, shall we? Okay, so I checked other capacitors and they're fine. All the other capacitors are fine. There is no other capacitor that was bad, and we're now getting, you know, full power. So we still have an issue where you know, the solenoid is not engaging. I don't think that it's this solenoid on top. I think it's going to be the solenoid that's on the bottom, because there are solenoids down there that there's a solenoid that has to activate before it will allow the machine to play. Now I do have another switch that I can put in. I do have other solenoid switches, so I could replace the bottom switch and see if that helps. For right now, we are getting there. We're getting closer to getting repaired. You know, we do have we have a new voltage regulator in here. We have new capacitors. We had at least 7 or 8 capacitors that had failed, and most of them were ELNA capacitors. And ELNA capacitors, they go bad, and they're always having problems. Every time I come across an ELNA capacitor, unless it's one of those big ones, they fail. But usually, like here, we've got this is out of my Super VHS deck. This one is bad. This is an ELNA, but this is a what is this, 200 volt or something? Yeah, it's a 200 volt at 390 microfarad. So I'm going to order that, but this is actually for the Sony SLV-R5UC Super VHS that I'm working on. So, and that one, I think, with 2 capacitors replaced and bypassing the damaged board, you know, we can get that one up and going too. So hopefully this one, you know, we can get it up and going. So that'll be it for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2, because in part 2 we're going to figure out what is actually wrong with it and why it will not play. So sometimes, you know, whatever causes those caps to go bad, you know, it's just one of those things. You just gotta do each thing, and you gotta search for the problem and just keep going down the line, and eventually you'll have the machine up and going. So, but to actually go from no power to power is good, because we're definitely now in the right direction. So anyway, I'll see you in part 2. This will be the end of part 1. Bye bye.